So if you don't already know, there's a lot of hype about the 2025 Toyota 4Runner 6th generation that's going to be released later today. Earlier today on the Toyota USA Instagram, they released a video of some of their employees reacting to the 2025 Toyota 4Runner and giving some insight on how their reaction was to the overall look of the new 6th generation 4Runner.
Dude, this is freaking sick. This is sick. Yeah, this is exactly what I want.
Oh my god, the color.
This is sweet.
This is awesome. I love the blue.
This is going to be my dad car.
And of course, as you can see from their reactions, and as we kind of all expect, the 6th generation is going to be a major upgrade and have lots of new features. I think it's going to be a bit larger, as you've seen in previous models where they've all gotten a little bit bigger as the generations have been released. And I think that overall it's going to be a big step forward for the 4Runner. But I was thinking about it, and with this being the 6th generation, and there being 5 other generations beforehand, what exactly did the other generations look like when they came out? Were they as anticipated as the 6th generation has been? Were people as excited about it as they are for this one? So I did some research and I went back on the previous generations. How much were the previous generations of the Toyota 4Runner? Let's find out. So before we come up to the 2025 6th generation 4Runner, let's take it all the way back to the 1st generation, which was released in 1984.
For the Toyota that's country tough and city smart through stop and go, you'd be asking for Toyota 4Runner. With 4-wheel drive and room for 5, 4Runner commutes, carries, and conquers all roads. 4Runner. #1 in customer satisfaction for 2 years running.
It had a starting MSRP of $10,493. Before the 4Runner was ever released, the only options that people had for that size SUV was the Ford Bronco or the Chevy Blazer. So when Toyota came in with the 4Runner, they had to kind of set themselves apart and give a reason as to why you'd get the 4Runner over the Blazer or the Bronco. So when they first started the 4Runner, they came out with magazine ads. And the big selling point for when the 4Runner first hit the market was that it had the highest ground clearance of any SUV that size, and that it had the removable top, which you hadn't seen in other SUVs. The reason that the 4Runner even had the removable top was because the 1st generation 4Runner was built off of the Toyota pickup truck base, but the 4Runner did have a fiberglass top in order to give it more of that SUV feel. Now the 1st generation was only released with 2 doors, but they did immediately come out with what is now a very signature thing to Toyota, the retractable rear window. And to give you some insight, if the 1984 1st generation 4Runner was released today, with inflation in mind, then it would be released at $31,583. Now that 1st generation ran until 1989, and in 1990 is where we saw the 2nd generation 4Runner, and that one had a starting price of $15,713. Not only did they change the exterior and the interior, but they also kind of went at it with a whole new theory. Where the 1st generation was heavily based off of the Toyota pickup, the 2nd generation came at it with more of an SUV feel. The 2nd generation came in with 4 doors instead of 2, and had a full metal shell to give that SUV feel even more. A 2-door option was still available in 1990 and 1991, but in 1992 all 4Runners became 4 doors. And in a 1989 magazine ad, Toyota pushed for the all-new 4Runner with 4 doors and lots of new options and features. However, it no longer had that removable top that had become such a crowd favorite. And the 2nd generation, of course, became very popular from its reliability, its ruggedness, and the overall exterior of the vehicle. The only complaint that the 4Runner kept having was its fuel efficiency. And if the 1990 2nd generation was released today based off of inflation, it'd be released at $37,828. And in 1996 is when Toyota released the 3rd generation 4Runner with an MSRP of about $19,908. And after some complaints on the 2nd generation about the lack of legroom, the 3rd generation came in with about 3 inches more legroom in the back seat than the previous generations had. And lots of different features on the 3rd generation 4Runner were improved, such as the seats, the center console design, and the suspension. And the 3rd generation limited package now came with a new one-touch high-force system, which allowed for the driver to switch between rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. The 3rd generation also came in with an all-new lift-up tailgate, which was a very popular feature on this generation of 4Runners, but there was still a lot of complaints about the gas mileage. And if the 3rd generation 1996 4Runner was to be released today, with inflation in mind, then it would be released at about $39,526. Now the 4th generation released in 2003, at a starting MSRP of about $27,205. Now, the 4Runner saw a lot of success with the 2002 model, which would make you think that they would have just kept going with the model that they had, maybe giving it a few feature upgrades and a light refresh. However, Toyota decided to completely redesign the 4Runner in 2003 and came in with the 4th generation, changing the interior, the exterior, and just completely redesigning inside and out. And the 4th generation 4Runner was actually based off of the Toyota Land Cruiser Prado 120 platform. And this is also where the SR5 became the new base model for the 4Runner. And the 4th generation came with 3 different trim levels, with the base model being that SR5 and the highest model being the Limited, and that's where you saw all of those luxury features and options that were available. And that one had a starting price of about $40,000. And the 4th generation, we saw Toyota still maintain the comfort of a car while also getting near the strength of a full-size SUV and off-road vehicle. But there were still complaints of the gas mileage and just the overall fuel efficiency. 2003, 4th generation 4Runner, if it was released today, again, still keeping inflation in mind, then it would be released at about $45,932. And the current 5th generation model, which was originally released in 2010 when they gave the full redesign for the 5th generation, was released at about $27,500. The 5th generation came in with more power, a more rugged exterior, a redesigned interior, and a long-awaited improved fuel efficiency. Now, the 5th generation still kept that truck-based platform and still kept its durability and overall off-road capabilities, while also still having all of the essential elements to make it a daily driver. And with that 5th generation being the largest 4Runner we'd seen yet, it was slightly longer, wider, and taller than the 4th generation that we had seen right before this. The 5th generation 4Runner also saw an upgrade to the exterior headlights and taillights, as well as larger bumpers and wider shoulders. And all trim levels of the 5th generation 4Runner came with 4-wheel drive versions as well. And the 5th generation also saw new redesigns to the interior, such as new front seats and a new 3rd row seating option as well. And with inflation, the 2010 5th generation 4Runner would be released today at about $39,145. Now, all of this is just a recap on all of the previous generations of 4Runners that we've had so far, so you can really see how Toyota took the 4Runner and jumped into that new midsize SUV market in 1984 and gave it a redesign every so many years to be able to keep up with the demand and the market and what people were requesting at the time, leading all up to the 4Runner that we now know today. They maintained their reliability and their ruggedness as well as their off-road capabilities, but still managed to keep the 4Runner a daily driver type of vehicle that fit into the market perfectly with its competitors. And now with the 4Runner being one of the most popular vehicles and one of the most reliable vehicles, we're now awaiting the 6th generation that's going to be released later today, and I will be making a video for that as well. So make sure that you catch that. If you're watching this at a later date after it's already been released, then you can check up in the corner and I'll have that tagged for you. But let me know what you think of the generations of the 4Runner. Let me know down in the comments below. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see next.